Marina, you want to tell us your interpretation of what this is about this morning, please?
Well, we had a class last Monday. Not a class, more of a meeting, and we sort of got together and put together some new practices that we think are going to better our desk team and better the salon experience for everybody. So we had some ideas that we sort of jotted down, and then we were trying them out this week. So this meeting is for us to share how it went for everybody, and that way we can introduce everyone else to just new ways of saying things or new ways of greeting clients, new ways to do a tour for guests. So I think today is basically talking about that, right?
Yeah. It's sort of a follow up to that because initially, what we had set the day up to be a a training day, and it evolved into, well, we have to as a company have to continue to evolve, change, be different than everybody else in ways that we don't even know, and we have to keep looking for ways that we're going to be different. How are we going to be different? How are we going to differentiate ourselves and be something to somebody that's different than everybody else has? And we ended up discovering these practices that make a difference for people, because we know that if there's certain experiences that a guest gets when they come into the salon, that they have a better chance, we have a better chance of really wowing them, making their experience great. We have a better chance of retaining them as a guest if they get some of these activities, practices, or things that occur while they're in the salon. So, for some of you, it might be just really second nature to do a particular step, to ask a particular question, to come out from behind it, to come out from behind the desk and have a conversation with a guest and to ask how their granddaughter is or how their husband is. And that just might be something that's innate or ordinary to you, but it's not always to everyone. And to make sure that everyone is in this game or conversation about what are we going to do that is going to be different from when their last visit was. And we had some practices that we created in a new way, and some of them may be things that we already do, but others, like Marina said, were just elaborations or little improvements or alterations in what we were doing and to how we're looking at doing it in the future. And even so much as coming up with nine specific steps from the desk position that have to occur with a guest. So between that and the new guest tours, and we wanted to talk about what the week was like after having this day. So, some of you, know a lot of this. You have information about this. You could write the book on it, and we are, which is great because we're looking at, all right, well, now what's the next place that we can go to with this? What's the next way we can transform this and make it better? And what is actually happening on a week to week and a day to day and an hour to hour basis that is different? It can become really easy to just fall into almost autopilot. Like, we it's like the guest who's been coming for 20 years and gets the same haircut, or 15 years or 10 years or 5 years. There's no consultation anymore. There's no opportunity to take that time to discuss what options there are. It's that same old, same old. Well, she's probably just going to want the same thing anyway. I'll meet her at the bowl. And us being on our toes, and especially going into the summer, looking at now is the time, because there is time to be creating guest experiences that are extraordinary. And what that looks like, we don't know, but that's why we're having this inquiry. So, I want to give you all a chance to talk about a couple of things. So one is, like, if you look at last week, so obviously last week there was a drop off in the number of guests at all locations. The Promenade had 124 guests last week, that 139 the week before. It's not that big a drop. The Village had 212 guests the week before, 170 guests last week, and Bayfront had 160 guests the week before and 137 guests last week. So there is that, but then there's also, okay, looking at specific results. Bayfront had an improvement in pre-book. So pre-book went up where typically it was trending downward. So it went up to 67% from, what's the other, went up to, let's see here. From 64%. Retail per guest went up to $12.07 per guest. That was an increase. At the Promenade, one of the highlight days that stood out, there was a Wednesday where you had 71% pre-book, 24 out of 34 guests rebooked on that day. And on that same day, $18.38 was retail per guest on Wednesday. Overall, Friday.
Wednesday was huge. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, that was Wednesday, right?
Yeah, Wednesday was huge for us. It was a lot going. Yeah, we had one lady get 9 things of retail, so that was huge.
Yeah, so I want to give you both, because you worked at the Lies on that day, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I want to give you both a chance to just a minute. I want to just do this last one, give you both a chance to talk about that, because I want to talk about some of the things that happened that were different. Because I also talked to some of the stylists, and I was hearing some of their feedback about it as well. So on Friday at the Village was their best pre-book and retail per guest. They had $15.65 a pre-book retail per guest that day. So there were these highlight days that really stood out that I want to find out from you, or the week overall, like at Bayfront. You had this increase where the trend was downward, and you had this increase where pre-book went up and retail per guest went up. So just to hear from you on what you noticed, in particular. Charlie, you started to talk about Wednesday. What was different, and what actions are happening like that are different than, it just, you had this, one person who walked in. Well, obviously there were practices that are being done, because I saw products on the desk. I heard it from stylists. I heard that there was definitely a shift in, not just accepting it the way that it is, like status quo, like, you have so-and-so's always going to do the 6 steps. The other one, I just give up on, forget it. That's just who they are. They're just never going to be doing the 6 steps. What did you see that was different? What did you do that was different to be the source of those results? Because you don't want to have it just be an accident, because it wasn't an accident. When the results shift or alter, it's not like some woo-woo thing. You, your team, your coworkers were, there were actions you were taking that were making a difference, and it shows in the results. So what were some of the things? This is open.
So what I've noticed is that we kept on putting new, the products that we use, that Christy or Sam would use on a client's, when they were washing them, shampooing them. They would all put it on the desk, and either Eliza or myself would put it in the computer, because I like doing that, because it will, once we like check them out and there's like retail, we could just add it in. So that's like a less extra like less step we have to do instead of like typing it all in. We actually have it in the computer also. So I like how we did that. But yeah, we had like products coming on the desk for us, and we would write we would write the client's name and the stylist that they use also, which is always nice. So that's we can do that more because that really is helpful for everybody
Yeah, great,
involved.
great. So what
So
prompted that? I mean, how did you get the results of, not the results of the sales, but for people to actually bring the product to the desk so that you could type that out? What were you doing? What were you saying? What was happening?
I same thing like what Charlie said. I talked to the associate stylists before like the day started. I was just telling them how like I would like for them to like kind of help me in a way, like especially like I was also going in the back when some people were sitting and processing. I was also like pre-booking before Charlie came because she came later in the morning. Um but I told them like if they can like kind of like help me out if they could with like just bringing up products like they used at the bowl, and also just like watching the desk and letting me know someone comes up while I'm also booking someone in the back. So it was like a teamwork thing that we had going on, which was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I heard from some of the stylists too that, they had discussions or conversations about it and that they were participating in it, and that, that they could see a difference in the guest experience too, because 70% of the guests on a particular day have a color experience. So they're in there for more than, 40 minutes. So they have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that time in the back. So utilizing their time, being more efficient with their time, respecting their time, and getting comfortable with being able to figure out, well, what's the strategic best way to have this conversation with them, include the stylist. So the stylist, is making the recommendation of when they should come back, and being able to do some of that work in the back of the house rather than just that last 5 minutes, because that checkout's going to be so much quicker anyway when that part's done. So the front of the house thing, like on their last step, which is, paying for their bill, it's going to happen much faster. And if the products are already there, in addition, that saves that one other thing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
going to make the flow for them. And I'm sure you noticed that too, that, hey, the product's already here. And even for just putting it in the system, I noticed some commentary and it was great. Mickey's on the call. Hi, Mickey. Happy birthday. She's muted, but I could see her name.
Good morning. Thank you.
Hi.
Happy birthday, Mickey.
Thank you.
I saw you had been, writing, commenting, giving feedback about, please put the information about the guest in the computer so we could tell them what was used, because you're getting people who call back in and say, hey, what did they use on my hair? You want to be able to recommend that to them. So that being put in the system, and I don't know what the percentage was, like how many people that happened with, but as it starts and we continue with it and keep it as a practice so that it's always there, is going to make a big difference. So that's awesome. I mean, obviously it shows like, in the results, like what happens when, it's not an accident, when just these simple steps get put into place, like what difference it makes in the guest experience, which is overall what we're trying to do anyway. Okay. Who else? What did you notice? Because like Bayfront, you had an increase in both areas. What did you notice? What was different about last week? What actions, what steps were taken at the Village? You had your big retail per guest and your pre-book day on Friday. What was different?
Well, our associates at Bayfront have been really on it. They have been, keeping their tracking lists, and they've been bringing up bringing up those products. I've also been talking to them to talk to the clients more about them, not just bring them up. Because some clients, when you do come up, they go, "Oh, is that what you use?" So it's clear that the conversation wasn't had.
Yeah.
So we've been sort of talking about how just let them know what you're using and why you're using it. If you feel their hair is dry, let them know you're using some kind of a conditioning treatment or whatever, just so that they know. I said, and then it's not awkward when we pull those products up and then they go, "What is that?" So I think, and the girls really have stepped up and have really been doing a lot of that, and it shows in the numbers.
Yes. And that's a really awesome distinction you put out too, because if they're not doing the what and why, then it's going to be, do you want fries with that? It's going to devolve into just an empty question. It's not
Yeah.
going to have anything
Then
behind
it's
it.
just a sale. Yeah, then we look like we're just selling and nickel and diming them because we're just
Yes.
saying, "Here, buy this." And
Yes.
we are not connected to that experience, so it's important for the people that are actually doing it to be talking about it versus just us desk, because then everybody looks at us as the cash machine. Like we're just trying to take their money. So if it's not already in the conversation, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good to point that out to them too. Because when you see that it's not, when it's obvious to you that the guest has this look on their face, like, what are you talking about? That it was just part of only a piece of it. They didn't do the real work, which is what we want to do, is share with the guests, like, this is what we use here. This is why we use it. I'm using it on your hair type because of, Brenda wants to lower the pH in your hair. And to do that, we're using this shampoo, which has a lower pH, and this is why we're using it. And it's great for colored hair. So I'll be leaving it at the front desk for you. Whatever that conversation is, that's a prep for them so that they're not surprised when they get up front. But the fact that there's movement, the fact that you're seeing them take these steps, and especially now that there's fewer guests per day, so there's more time to spend with people. There's more time to create a great experience with a guest, and that's the blessing of the whole thing. So, if somebody's just being a passive shampooer, a passive order taker, or somebody who's not being proactive, it's not going to make a difference going into these summer months where we have to really create the edge. The world right now, there's never a day that goes by in our history that we haven't had to always look, we got to figure out how to do this better. We got to figure out how to get better at everything that we do, because there's always some circumstance in the world that is impacting us. There's the economy. There's competitors. There's, just the general state of people's minds around inflation that we have to deal with on a regular basis. So have got to be right now providing a tremendous level of value. And that is like value, meaning, I mean, that sounds so woo-woo-y, but value is just like making somebody feel really good, giving them a great experience so that they want to go nowhere else, so that they realize the difference between what we are versus what everybody else is. And that comes down to just, that very first phone call. People are terrified to make phone calls to places now because of the way what it's like being on the phone with the business. It's scary. And to actually get somebody on the other end of the call that cares, that listens.
Well, and can I just have to say, so like I can't imagine. I've been dealing with a lot of makeup artists. We've had a lot of stuff going on makeup wise lately, and I just can't imagine being an actual somebody dealing with. There's just so much inconsistency. Like, it's all about who's going to give me the most money. I mean, I've had makeup artists cancel on me the night before at 11 o'clock after I already prepaid them, like already paid, and tell me, "Oh, well, I just got booked a party of 6, so sorry." Like, so my two people don't mean crap to them, so, and that's the way the world is right now. That's not just, that's we kind of exist in this bubble, and we forget what the world is. Or like even at Starbucks, if they forget my freaking caramel that I paid 70 cents for, well, I love the way I feel at Starbucks, and Starbucks gives me that feeling. That's why I go there, but I want my value out of why I go there. And that's what even though it's only 70 cents, everybody's watching every dollar that they spend right now. I feel like that's the whole world. No matter what income bracket you're at, it's just like a constant conversation that's happening right now. So being on, making sure that we are providing that we are that safe space for people, that even the way we word things to people that we may not even realize making sure we're going above and beyond in every conversation with a guest.
Yeah, simple. That's one of the things we were touched on in our day was just the verbiage of how we offer somebody a drink, like how much difference that makes. Whether we say, do you want a drink, a water or coffee, versus would you like some cold filtered water, an espresso, a mochaccino, cappuccino, Prosecco, Pinot Grigio. It just sounds different. And even if they're not going to have any of it, even if you ask them every single time, it's critical to have that offering, because maybe they never will. But when they talk to their friends about us, they get to say that to their friends. They get to say they have a great cappuccino. I get Prosecco every time I go, or I don't get Prosecco. But if you love Prosecco, they always have Prosecco for you. They don't have Diet Coke, but I asked for Diet Coke, and the girl went and got it for me. That the way, when you said verbiage, it sounds like such a simple thing, but that matters. And you go to Starbucks because it's consistent. You can rely on, you're going to pay for it, but you can rely on getting what you're going to get from there. And go ahead. Somebody talk.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
Yes. So I want to second on that. So yesterday I was at the Village, and Jasmine had a client, new client. She was asking him, would you like a cappuccino, espresso? And he said yes, but can we make it like an iced one? And she said, of course we can do that. So, and he really was impressed, and that we would offer that, because some people like it hot, some people like it cold, but they don't always say something to us. So going that extra step is always nice too.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out.
Yeah, that's cool. She became a barista right there. Yeah. Of course I can make you an iced.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I love that. And that's one of those little things that, is a small request that is easy to fulfill. And like you said, gives them that extra sense of, well, somebody cared. They didn't just go, no, the machine only has this. That's what the machine has. And, if you didn't have ice there, you'd go get ice. You'd figure out a way to make that happen. I know, like on the calls, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, Marina, you had the guest who, you spent 20, 30 minutes with on the phone, just listening.
Right. Sometimes they just need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
just,
a lot of times, that is the solution, that they're not really looking for something more. They think that they are when they're calling, but in reality, 30 minutes later, as they're still talking, you realize that's all they needed. And at the end they go, okay, I don't want anything, thank you for listening.
yeah. But you really got in her world to get her to understand what she was dealing with. I mean, you didn't just record it as, all right, got a guest on line 7, complaint, hand it off to the next department. You it really empathized with her in a way that she felt heard, which in this day and age means the world to people, because most experiences are is that nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. you know, just like you're just a check on a list, like next. So, you know, that
Yeah, it's
opportunity.
important to bring your experience into the conversation as well. Sometimes you may not understand what they're talking about because it's a color correction or whatever. That's what this kind of was. And she kept talking about this little treatment that she can buy anywhere. And I said, well, let's, tell me what you had done. And once she told me, oh, they needed to take color out, then then I understood. I was like, oh, okay, no. So it might be called the Malibu, but it's not the little packet that you buy somewhere else. But then you start talking about it and then you go, oh, yes, this is what I do when my hair gets done. And, or, sometimes it doesn't work out very well because I'm a redhead and my hair fades. And once you start bringing in your personal life into it, they feel so much more comfortable talking to you because you're not now just a voice on the other side. You're also a girl that gets her hair done, or you're a guy that has seen her and has gotten her coffee, or, they put that you become human to them.
Yeah.
And in that instance, as soon as you have that human connection, they talk to you completely differently. It's not just about complaining, complaining, complaining. They'll open up, they'll tell you the story, and then you can get to the bottom of it. And whether you do have to refund services or give them, freebies for the future or whatever you need to do, but you will get to it much quicker when they start trusting you. And to trust you, you have to open up and take the time to open up.
Mm. Yeah, that's good. Good stuff. Because you're actually giving some practical advice on what it is, like practical, real world stuff. That's not just well, how am I going to fix this? There's more. Let's get related. Let's know who the human being is. Let me open my soul up to like what my experiences are too, because I'm on your side. That's
Right.
awesome.
Right. And even we sometimes get it wrong. Everybody gets it wrong. So let's figure out what we can do to make it right from here on
Mm.
out.
Hi, Sophia. I see you there. You're muted if you're talking, but I can see you're on. There you are.
Sophia, hi.
Okay. What else? Anyone else want to chime in? Anything to add around what was different, what actions were taken, or what you noticed about people? Like maybe you noticed somebody doing a piece of the 6 steps that they hadn't done before, or just a habit that changed or altered. Anything else? Doesn't have to be. Keep your eye out for it today and going forward. So, go ahead.
I just went. It has made me more aware of in the mornings to look at what's on the book to be prepared for that. So then it helps because sometimes I think we just start going without paying attention, and then an issue happens that we could have caught before, but we're so lost in the moment that we're not prepared. Something that could be easily fixed, like noticing a new client or some different things on the book, like just being aware in the morning what's on the book and being ready for that.
Yeah, I think I'll touch on that for just a second because you brought that up. There is a list that's out now that's going to be kind of a practices list that we work from on a daily basis to generate to by generate I mean like cause, make happen, rather than reacting to whatever business is on the book, but actually to create more business for these off months especially. Some of these items are regarding that, some are just around the general operation. But one of the discussions that was had last Monday was around the new guest tour. So knowing, or the new guest orientation, and having that be an event and a planned event that's going to occur at a specific time. So you know when they're coming, you know what to expect, you know that you have time allotted to spend with them. So you have coverage or whatever it is that you need up front. And so part of that is knowing who's coming and when they're coming, the planning of that. So on the I don't know if that list is up there, but you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit. Writing out the new guest list and times that they're coming in, so you plan for coverage at that time. Any guests that you have that are coming in that you don't have an email for, knowing who they are in advance so that you can have them update when they arrive and not when they check out. You know, when they arrive, you have more time with them. They're more open to you. When they check out, once that cape comes off, remember that once that button unsnaps, that robe comes off, they're gone. Their minds are in the future. They're physically in the building, but they're not there anymore. So any time that you can save with that, getting that information up front. Looking up who's a second time or third time guest, welcoming them back, just like a new client. Remember, they're not our guest. They don't consider us their salon until their 5th visit. Any milestones to celebrate with a guest or back at the house, things that you're prepping for the day. So, and in generating business, I'm just going to do this real quick, but you're going to have this list, reviewing the reviews in the Boulevard, share it with the team. So now this great thing is happening now, and I love it. Mickey, thank you. Mickey's looking those up on a daily basis and highlighting the victories and the breakthroughs and posting them and sharing them with everybody, which is awesome. So a lot of people don't read Slack. So in the salons, when you're there, that's something you do in downtime. Find those, take a look at those reviews on a daily basis, give feedback to people, thank people. You can actually thank the guests too. You can reach out to them and send them a message or acknowledge them or put a note in there to thank them when they come in. Something else you could be doing on an ongoing basis throughout the day is reviewing that wait list and working with the stylist to get somebody in who's on the wait list. What's going to display on your screen is just today's wait list. So you can go to other days by looking, pulling that drop down in Boulevard. Reviewing people who have canceled, that cancellation list. You know, this is a practice that we've got to get into, like following up with those people so we get them rebooked proactively. Reviewing online bookings, making sure you're entering the product recommendations into guest profiles. You're doing that throughout the day. Editing the notes into the client profile, their drink preferences, their any notable life circumstances, challenges or things that they're going through, celebrations or life events that they have, they mentioned to you. Cleaning, stocking, and leveling the retail shelves. These items here are just the housekeeping of the business. So at the end of the day, you want to be able to ask yourself, how much business did you generate for that day? How many guests did you book a future reservation for? How many guests took home an ROP product? How many cancellations did you rebook? How many waitlist guests did you book? What are the names of the new guests that you met and something unique about that person? Like, did you develop a relationship with them? Those are real questions, like real things, like what occurred during the day. So if you have a day where you have 10 guests coming in, and we've had days like that where we only have 10, there's a lot of other things that can be done and worked on to make a difference for the business rather than just being bored because you're doing half the guests that you're used to.
Sorry. I do want to point out also that on Saturday I was at Promenade, and we had a lady come in. She was a walk-in, and Samantha was able to take care of her. She was saying that the last she was brand new, wasn't in our system or anything, and all she wanted was a haircut, but she got root retouch, highlights, the works. And I do have to say, I should have taken a before and after photo. I should have had Samantha do that. But like the fact that Samantha took the time to talk to her, ask her what she wanted, like she was just somebody who just wanted to come in, just look for a haircut. But the fact that she got more than just a haircut is like good. And I will say that Samantha did a very good job at the end of the day, and the lady was very pleased with everything. So I just want to.
Yeah, and that's a great example of turning that into an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for the guest too, because she got to get a transformation.
Yep.
So, something to acknowledge, when you see that happening, when you see somebody turn something into just a haircut into a transformation. Yeah, that's awesome. And thanks for sharing that too. Lex, were you going to say something too?
Something that Mackenzie pointed out to me recently. So, I've been trying to she's only worked here for like 10 years and still doesn't get her hair done here. And so for her wedding, she ended up going to Nikki Fernandez, and we were talking about it, and she had a really big like aha moment that I think the desk can help with as well. She realized, and Nikki didn't give her the option not to rebook. Like she was like, no, you're coming back in 10 weeks. What day works for you? Like there was no option. And I think sometimes what I notice is that the stylist, that doesn't happen, and I can tell that by the time they get to the front and they have like no idea what they're supposed to do. Which I think reminding them that their guests are willing to do what the stylist asks, and we also have a hand in that as well in the way that we communicate it. Sometimes they'll come up and when we hear, you can tell when it has been talked about before, when it hasn't been talked about, based off of their reaction to us. And that's another part of where being prepared or doing that ahead of time or all of the above, so that conversation is being had, because it really does make a difference. And they'll do what the professional recommends. So, and that was just a big aha moment for her. And had her be on the other side of the fence, that made her realize that it really does make an impact.
Yeah, that's good to get their feedback too on, what's there for them around pre-booking, that it doesn't, that, it's not a practice or it's not in place. And it does make it so much easier when you have that support, or when that comes to the back. And that especially this week and today, especially, be out there working on, you got the time for it now. Because when everybody checks in, once everybody's checked in, they have their drinks. That's typically, in the past, that's been a time to like, all right, wait an hour or two when the rush of everybody checking out comes. But now that is literally the time, once they start processing, go to the back, you're prepping the future for them with the stylist. You want to start to work on that right away. Like, do they have a future appointment? Not when they check out. Like, you're looking already. And then you're going back to the stylist and saying, hey, when would you like to see her again? Give me some ideas of what you're going to be doing next time. You may not know yet, but give me an outline of that, so that you could start to prep and then be able to go back and have that conversation with the guest before they come up front. So it's really shifting the mindset of how the operation works. It's got to be radically different than it. Like naturally, I got everybody checked in. I did that. I got the 10 people that are here for their 10 o'clock appointments. Well, now the real work starts, if you haven't already done that, to get back there, work with them on, because you're going to have a much greater chance, just like when the stylist says, I need to see you again. And those people who have real high pre-book rates, the way they are with the guest. So the thing is getting everybody on that same page. And that's going to require you interrupting the normal, interrupting the ordinary, interrupting the status quo. And we have to do that. We have to keep interrupting the ordinary, the normal, the way that things are already work, because they're not working when they're just, oh, that's just the way we do it here, because we've been doing it that way. And they just don't ever do that. They asked them and they said no. You got your defense that comes up front. So things to bear in mind today as we look at each day, like when you're working and what's happening with when you're there, like what results are you causing? What are you making happen? And that's what this call is for too, to give you feedback on when it works, when it doesn't work as well as you'd like it to, or the victories, like hearing, what you're doing that's working. All right. Last segment. How many of you gave if you gave a new guest tour last week, you met and gave a new guest tour? Who did that? At least one. No guest tours last week? Anybody saying yes? They are muted. So no new guests got a guest tour last week from whoever I'm talking to on this call. Is that correct?
I did a guest tour.
Okay, so you did one
Yeah.
guest tour?
Yes, I did one guest tour.
Okay. Anybody else?
I did on Saturday.
Okay.
I did. I mean, I guess I'm classified. I'm thinking of a guest tour as too much, but like showing them our products, showing them restrooms.
All right.
Yeah. So
I'm using the term a guest welcome rather than a tour because I think you're thinking about like, did you show them every inch of the business? A guest welcome, which includes the talk that we talked about, like just hey, who you are. This is how we work. This is a little bit about our product. You know, that whole orientation kind of conversation we had is what I'm referring to. So if you did that, not necessarily a tour. Okay, Sophia cannot, her
Yes, I
mic
did
doesn't
that.
work and she says, I did. Good. Okay, so Lex, who are you with at the Village today?
She's
Eliza
with
and
me.
Charlie.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, so you can do the check rides of the new guest tours today because we talked about doing that this past Friday. So the check ride being the simulation where they actually do it, you observe it. You know,
Yes, I was gonna go in and start the day by getting, like what I was saying, preparing the day with being aware of getting that ready for today. Yeah.
yeah. So that's just the follow up from the last meeting as far as like their certification in the new guest tour experience part.
Correct.
Okay, great. And then you're with Sophia on Thursday. When are you with Sophia again?
Friday.
On
Friday.
Okay, then you could do that with her on Friday. So that, and then the 3 that were with us get the certification. So it's a week behind, but it's there. All right, so we're going to keep looking at this as we go forward. Thank you for being on the call. Thanks for being a part of this. If you have any yeah buts, what ifs, or anything like that, shoot them into Slack beforehand or as I see you this week, or share with each other, because I'm going to be asking each of you specifically about your new guest tours this week, about what's different in the 6 steps, about what's different in the results. And when the results don't change, we also want to be responsible for that too, because the actions didn't change if the results don't change. So there's just an action that's missing, that when the numbers reflect a decline or they're down or pre-book is 30% or 40%, there's just actions that aren't happening. When retail per guest drops below, especially in a promo month, drops below $8 retail per guest, there's just actions that aren't happening. The products just aren't being brought up front. It's very, very simple. So it's not some woo-woo-y thing. It's just managing the actions and making sure that they're happening.
And what I was like, what I'll also show Eliza today too is like, because she was saying how she's asking them and some are doing it, some aren't bringing them up, and that's where we have to really, as a desk, be accountable for holding them accountable, which can be like awkward at times, but then going back and finding out what you use on them, so then we can be ready for it regardless of if they do it or not, and then it keeps them going to do it, because they see like it's now adding stress on us that we're having to go find out.
Yeah, and that's what you have to do. I mean, you can't just like let it go. Like literally, you got to stop, interrupt the guest, right there. But you didn't have the product up front. Well, you could know that before, but if you don't,
Right.
then you're going to stop and go to the back.
That's what I'm saying before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And it is like it's extra work, but like I think sometimes, but we're about to slow down. So right now is like the perfect time to get in the mode and habit of doing, because once it's a habit, once it's done so many days in a row, it's an automatic habit, and we just have to create that habit.
Yeah, and it's going to take breaking the way that it's already done right now, because there's a condition now that it happens sometimes, but literally it has to be like no different than when they're doing a haircut and they section off the hair and part it to do the haircut. They've got to do that first. They can't skip that step in a haircut, and they can't skip this step in the process. And that's what we're aiming towards. So yeah, that's great. Everybody, don't let that be okay. You got to stop, interrupt, and go. And that's the only way that the habit's going to change. You know, you got to keep reminding them, you know, and it's going to take, 21 solid days of being consistent with it before people start to even think about changing, before people even start to like, oh, she's serious about this. It's not just a one-day thing. They had a phone call. Great. This will be over tomorrow and I can go back to the way it was, because I'm not going to stop with you. And I get to see whether you're doing it on a daily basis. I can tell whether you're holding them accountable or not, just like you can. You could see it. You see it in the results. You look at a particular day, you can tell when they were doing what they were supposed to do. You know, when retail per guest goes up for the entire week, you know there's a shift in the way those associates, the way you spoke to those associates at Bayfront to make sure that they brought those products every time. It's obvious. So simple solution to it. All right, everyone. Thank you all for your participation. Thanks for being here on the call. Thanks for, being willing to do it differently like we do. Thanks for being on this team and being having the hearts and the way and the commitment to do what you do and the way that you do it. It's different, and you swim in it and live in it and breathe it every day. So it seems like it's ordinary to you, but what you do is extraordinary. What you do is completely different than anybody else. And I appreciate you for that. Thank you.
I want to real fast. I just have to I have to say something that was cool last week that happened too. Mickey also, she had a phone call with a guest, and instead of just like letting the situation go, she brought it further, and instead of even just bringing it to me, she brought it to the person and followed through with it, and made like she cared enough about that issue that it made a change. So that was just something that was it was pretty cool.
Well, the things that we're looking for, yeah, like those little victories, and those little things count. I want to hear about those, and I want to share those with each other so people have examples of, well, what can I do? What did I do? Like I can make a difference with the guest and follow up and own the issue, whether it's a complaint or a compliment or whatever it is. Be responsible for it so that we can make a difference for them. So I love that. I love hearing that. And
if I could throw in another thing, when you guys are talking to the associates or the stylist and you're seeing the improvement, it's also important for us to point that out and to thank them, and to not necessarily thank them, but just make it special, make them feel good about what they just did that caused something to happen. So when, sometimes with the girls, I'd be like, good job bringing up the products. You're doing so great today. Just little things. Or with the stylist, same thing. Like, thank you for letting me know ahead of time. Please continue to do that. I love that. Like, give them positive reinforcement, positive feedback as well, because otherwise we're just the ones that are constantly nagging them and nothing, and then they just ignore us. So it's important to acknowledge them as well.
Yeah, and that's
and
really
everybody
great.
wants to hear when they're doing. It feels good when you see the results of what your actions are.
Yeah, so
Right.
Sharing that too, like if you have a victorious day or you have an $18 day and a 71% pre-book, sharing that with people, like letting them know, like, wow, we crushed it. We blew our numbers away, but you were a part of that. You made a difference with that because you had 9 guests today, and every one of them you were on point with. So thank you. So sharing the victory with them so they get the impact it has on the guest. And then we know we have that greater chance of retaining that guest. We know what our 6 weeks is going to look like. We know that guest is going to be thinking of us every single day when they see us in the shower with them. That it's we are keeping them locked in to loving their experience here. Thank you all.
Right. Exactly.
Appreciate you. Love you. Have an awesome day. I will see you this week.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Happy freaking birthday. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day,
Bye.
guys.
Bye, everyone.
Happy
Bye.
birthday, Mickey. Have a wonderful
Thank
day.
you.
Love you.
Love you guys.